All right, everyone, settle in. We're about to dive deep into something pretty grim today.
Yeah, definitely heavy
We're
stuff.
talking about a case from Hong Kong's history that's, well, truly unsettling. The Rainy Night Butcher, Lam Kor-wan.
Also known as Lam Kor-wan. This one really shook Hong Kong back in the early 80s.
It really did. It was sort of the moment, wasn't it, when the idea of a serial killer became terrifyingly real there.
Absolutely. It marked a big shift in public awareness. Hong Kong was changing fast then, lots of anxieties bubbling up, and then this this horror story breaks.
So our plan today is to really unpack this. We'll go through the timeline, which is frankly stomach-churning,
Uh-huh.
try to get into the psychology, the mindset of Lim himself, if that's even possible.
And also look at the impact, right? How it affected society, policing, everything.
Exactly, and maybe see how he sits into the broader picture of serial killer profiles. So, Lim Kor-wan, where do we start?
Okay, well, the basics. He
Mm.
was born in 1955. At the time of the murders, he was working as a night shift taxi driver.
Right, the taxi driver angle is key later on.
Definitely. And his background. It seems there was difficulty. Reports of a tough relationship with his father, maybe abuse.
The classic troubled past narrative. Doesn't excuse anything, obviously, but it's often there.
It's a common factor, yes. But more concretely, he had prior history.
Ah, yes, the earlier incident. That wasn't minor, was it?
No. He was arrested for attempted sexual assault with a knife.
Wow. Okay. And what came of that?
He ended up being assessed, spent time, 102 days, I think, at Castle Peak Hospital, a psychiatric facility,
And then released?
and then released. So you have this background, these potential warning signs.
Hmm.
It paints a picture of someone deeply disturbed, even before the killings began.
A picture that gets a whole lot darker very quickly. So, 1982, February to July. Just 5 months.
Yes, the speed is one of the most striking things. 4 victims, all women, all picked up late at night in his taxi.
A terrifyingly consistent method. Let's
Okay.
walk through the victims. It's tough, but necessary. Chan Fenglan first.
Right. Chan Fenglan. She was 22, a nightclub dancer. February 3rd, he picked her up after she'd been drinking.
Took her back to his place.
To his flat into Kwa Wan, yes, and King Building on Kwai Chow Street. He strangled her there.
And the dismemberment.
He waited until his family left the flat. Then he dismembered her body with a saw
Oh, God.
and documented. He took photos
Photos.
of the dismemberment, and he preserved her sexual organs in rice wine.
You're kidding. Rice wine.
Guess what the reports say. Then he dumped the remains in the hills, some washed into the Xingmen River.
This is beyond just murder. This is ritualistic defilement.
It clearly points to something more than just killing. Then, a couple months later, the second victim.
Chan Wan Kit.
Yes, 31 years old. She worked as a cashier at a recreational center, took his taxi late on May 29th. It was raining heavily.
The rainy night connection starts to emerge.
She does. He threatened her with a knife, handcuffed her, strangled her with wire this time.
And the post-mortem actions.
Again, dismemberment. He used a surgical knife,
Yeah.
removed and preserved her breasts and her entire vaginal area.
Preserve them, like the first victim's organs.
Yes, and this time, he filmed it.
He filmed the dismemberment.
He did. He even titled the tape, Serious Secret.
Serious secret. Good grief. It's like he's creating trophies, but living trophies on tape.
It suggests a need to relive it, to possess the act itself. It's incredibly narcissistic and controlling.
Okay, victim number 3, June.
Long So-won, she was 29, a nightclub hostess, also did cleaning work. June 17th, same pattern, took his taxi, ended up at his flat.
And the filming continued.
Yes. He filmed this one too, called it Rainy Night Operation, even used a self-timer for the camera.
Getting more sophisticated with his documentation.
And the dismemberment was apparently more detailed. He opened her abdomen, removed intestines. There were reports he even tried to paste them,
He tried to taste them.
but apparently felt nauseous and stopped. It shows this morbid curiosity escalating, pushing his own boundaries of depravity.
It's just layer upon layer of horror. And the 4th victim, so young.
Lung Weissam,
Yeah.
just 17, a Form 5 student. This was July 2nd.
How did he encounter her?
She took his taxi after a school dinner, a teacher appreciation event.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
What's particularly chilling here is that he apparently had a conversation with her first
A normal conversation.
about school, her future, family, even religion, reportedly, and then
Then he killed her.
strangled her. And after she was dead, he sexually assaulted the body.
Necrophilia. On
Well,
top of everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then dismemberment, and again he recorded it, titled this one, Fourth Action.
That conversation beforehand. It's like flipping a switch. Utterly terrifying lack of empathy.
It really highlights the psychopathic masking, the ability to appear normal right before committing monstrous acts.
So 4 women killed, dismembered, parts preserved, the acts filmed. How does someone like this finally get caught? It wasn't a slip-up during the act itself, was it?
No, incredibly, it was his own obsession with documenting everything that led to his downfall. The photos. In August 1982, just a month after the last murder, he took the film, presumably containing images of the dismemberments, the organs, to a regular photo developing shop in Mongkok.
He just walked into a public shop with that.
Apparently so. The sheer audacity, or maybe detachment from reality, is staggering.
So what happened at the shop? Someone must have seen them.
Exactly. A shop employee was developing the photos, saw the horrific images, and immediately contacted the police.
Thank God for that employee. Real quick thinking.
Absolutely crucial. The police were alerted.
And they just waited for him.
They waited. On August 17th, when Lim came back to collect his developed photos, the police were there to arrest him.
Walking right into it. It's almost like, on some level, he wanted to be caught. Or maybe he just couldn't conceive of consequences.
It's hard to say for sure. Extreme arrogance, a subconscious slip, maybe both. But his obsession definitely sealed his fate.
And the search of his apartment must have been grim.
Beyond grim. They found the preserved female sexual organs in jars, stored in chemicals.
Oh my God, actual jars.
Yes. They found the tools, the saw, the surgical knife. Over 1,000 photographs detailing the dismemberments and the bodies.
1,000 photos.
And the 3 videotapes, Series Secret, Rainy Night Operation, and Fourth Action. Plus, personal belongings of the victims, small things, ID cards, handbags, remnants of the lives he'd taken.
Like a museum of horrors, was there one piece of evidence that really nailed it?
One particularly crucial piece was a photo that showed his own hand touching one of the bodies.
Ah, fingerprints.
Exactly. That allowed for a positive fingerprint identification, linking him directly and physically to the victims. Sometimes it's those small details.
With evidence like that, the trial must have been huge news.
Immense. It started March 3rd, 1983. Public fascination and horror were at a peak. People crowded outside the high court.
I read the jury was all male.
That's right. The defense had concerns that female jurors might be unduly prejudiced by the nature of the crimes against women.
Right, because women can't possibly be objective about violence against women. Makes perfect sense. Sarcasm implied.
It certainly reflects the thinking at the time. And the court had to figure out how to handle the evidence, especially the videos.
Playing those tapes in court, how did they manage that?
They took precautions. Limited audience, just the judge, jury, lawyers, essential staff. And the actual preserved organs weren't displayed, just photos to avoid, excessive sensationalism or trauma in the courtroom itself.
And Lim, what was his reaction to all this?
Reports say he was remarkably calm throughout the proceedings.
After all that.
Yes. Psychiatrists confirmed he had a high IQ and was fit to stand trial. No indication of psychosis that would negate responsibility. Just calm. Which is perhaps even more chilling.
So the verdict wasn't really in doubt.
With the overwhelming evidence, the photos, the tapes, the preserved remains, the fingerprint, the jury returned a unanimous guilty verdict on all 4 counts of murder.
And the sentence, it was death initially, wasn't it?
Yes, he was sentenced to death by hanging, which was the mandatory sentence for murder then.
But he's still alive.
Correct. In 1984, the sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. Hong Kong later formally abolished the death penalty in 1993. He remains imprisoned at Shek Kek prison.
Okay, so he's caught, convicted, imprisoned. But the big question remains, why? What drove him to do these things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The most likely primary motive seems to be sexual gratification, a lust killer.
But he had that weird claim about the first victim, right? Acting for heaven.
He did say something like that initially, suggesting the first victim, a sex worker, deserved it. But that feels like a weak, self-serving justification, especially since he later admitted he just became addicted after the second and third killings.
Addicted to killing. Horrifying.
And by the 4th victim, he even mentioned feeling bored, uncertain. It suggests a progression from some twisted rationale to compulsion and then maybe even a strange kind of desensitization to his own acts.
And his whole fascination with anatomy, how does that fit in?
He explicitly stated he had a strong interest, a curiosity about anatomy. That probably explains the meticulous dismemberment, the creation of those organ specimens, treating the bodies almost like dissection subjects.
So psychologically, what are we looking at? High intelligence, obviously. Calmness.
High IQ, yes. calmness during the crimes, but a profound lack of empathy, of remorse. It aligns strongly with traits of antisocial personality disorder, or what we commonly call psychopathy.
Did he show any emotion at all?
There were reports he shed tears when discussing the fourth victim, the young student. It's hard to know if that was genuine remorse, self-pity, or something else. An anomaly, perhaps.
And the treatment of the bodies. The necrophilia with the last victim, preserving the organs.
It points towards necrophilia, yes. Also, sadism deriving pleasure from the infliction of pain, or in this case, extreme degradation. The preservation speaks to a need for control, possession, collecting trophies of his conquests.
Objectification to the absolute extreme.
Completely. And the documentation, the photos, the carefully titled videos that signals extreme egocentricity. He saw these as accomplishments, maybe.
Yeah.
A portfolio of his work.
It's so warped. And we mentioned his childhood trauma earlier. The abusive father.
That difficult background could certainly have played a role in his psychological development, potentially creating fissures that later erupted into this extreme violence. It's not an excuse, but it's a potential contributing factor to the underlying personality structure.
Did any experts at the time offer insights? I think a pathologist, Dr. May?
Yes, Dr. Malsa Soule, the forensic pathologist, commented on Lim's intense focus during the dismemberments, how he treated the victims like objects. Dr. May also noted his photography skills were quite good, suggesting the chilling calmness and precision even while taking those gruesome photos.
And the idea that his technique improved.
Yes, that was another observation, that he seemed to get more methodical, perhaps more skilled at dismemberment over the 4 victims. It's a horrifying thought practice, making perfect in brutality.
And Lim actually said he wanted the photos to become historical pictures.
He did. That speaks volumes about his grandiosity, his desire for infamy. It's almost like he saw himself as creating something significant, however horrific.
Which makes taking them to a public shop even more baffling. Grandiosity leading to recklessness.
It's a paradox, extreme arrogance, a subconscious wish to be caught, a fundamental inability to understand societal norms and consequences, probably a complex mix.
And doing all this in the flat he shared with his father and brother.
Unbelievable compartmentalization. To carry out these acts, store the evidence, literally under the same roof as family. It shows an extraordinary ability to wall off parts of his life, or perhaps just a total disregard for them.
The impact on Hong Kong society must have been immediate and profound.
Oh, absolutely. Widespread panic, particularly among women. Suddenly taking a taxi at night, something routine, felt incredibly dangerous.
Because the killer was a taxi driver, hiding in plain sight.
Exactly. That violation of trust, combined with the targeting of lone women on rainy nights, created a very specific and palpable fear. Public safety felt shattered.
And the media, I imagine it was a frenzy.
Intense media coverage, yes.
Yeah.
Some of it quite sensationalized, which likely fueled the public anxiety even more. The crowds outside the trial showed that mix of fear and morbid fascination.
Did the case change things? Legally? Forensically?
It definitely sparked renewed debate about capital punishment, although it wasn't ultimately reinstated. More significantly, it directly led to the formation of the Hong Kong Forensic Odontology Team.
It's because of dental records.
Yes. Dental evidence was crucial for identifying some of the victims, highlighting the need for specialized forensic dentistry. And, grimly, some of the preserved organs were actually kept by the Forensic Pathology Division as teaching materials.
Wow. And the cultural impact? Films? Books?
Loads. Films like Dr. Lam, The Untold Story, TV shows, books. The case lodged itself deep in the cultural psyche. It became a recurring motif for horror and true crime in Hong Kong.
Is that healthy, that kind of cultural absorption?
It's complex. On one hand, it reflects collective trauma and ensures the event isn't forgotten. On the other, there's always the risk of sensationalizing, even glamorizing the killer, which can be deeply problematic. It topped a top 10 shocking cases poll by RTHK in 2003, showing its enduring notoriety.
It really felt like a loss of innocence for the city, didn't it?
Many people felt that way. This kind of systematic, ritualistic serial killing was basically unheard of in Hong Kong before Lam Kor-wan. It forced the city to confront a darker possibility.
And the media saturation, the pop culture focus, could that have unintended consequences, like copycats?
It's a real danger. Serial killers often crave attention, and nonstop coverage can feed that desire for notoriety. And tragically, yes, it can inspire others. The case of Lo Shupiu, the imitator in Guangzhou, where also targeted victims on rainy nights, was directly linked to Lim's notoriety.
A truly horrifying ripple effect. Did the broader context of 1980s Hong Kong, all the rapid change, play into how people saw the crimes?
Some commentary at the time and since has tried to link the crimes to the anxieties of a rapidly modernizing city. Alienation, social stress. But ultimately, while the context is relevant, the root seems firmly planted in Lim's individual psychopathology.
So placing Lam Kor-wan in the Rogues Gallery of serial killers, Hong Kong's first confirmed one, how does he compare to typical profiles?
He set a dark precedent, for sure. Motivation-wise, he ticks boxes for hedonistic killing, lust, and thrill, clearly.
The sexual assault, the addiction.
Exactly. But also strong elements of power and control, the total domination, the meticulous recording, the preservation.
That brief mission claim seems weak.
Very weak, likely just post hoc justification. And no signs of being a visionary killer driven by hallucinations or voices, despite that conversation about religion with the last victim.
And the background factors. Childhood trauma.
The reports of parental abuse align with patterns often seen in serial killer backgrounds. Again, not deterministic, but a relevant factor in development.
And the psychological profile. Psychopathy.
The lack of empathy and remorse. The egocentricity. The ability to maintain that mask of sanity as a taxi driver. It all points very strongly towards psychopathy or a severe antisocial personality disorder.
Methodologically, he was organized.
Highly organized. Victim selection, vulnerable women, alone, late at night, bringing tools, using his home as a controlled environment, careful disposal. It all points to planning and control.
And he had those really unique standout features, too.
Definitely. The level of documentation, photos, videos, titles, feels almost like creating an archive, beyond simple trophies.
And creating the specimens.
Yes, that extreme objectification and preservation of organs is highly unusual, linked perhaps to fetishism, possession.
Plus the paradox of taking the photos publicly.
That self-exposure remains deeply puzzling. Arrogance, a slip.
And doing it all in the family home. The sheer compartmentalization required.
It's extraordinary. It really sets him apart, even within the grim context of serial murder.
How does he compare to, say, the Tuan Mun rapist, another Lam from around that time?
Lam Kor-wan, the Tuan Mun rapist. Both were known as the double Lam, which caused confusion. Both targeted women. But Lam Kor-wan's post-mortem activities, the dismemberment and preservation, were far more extreme and indicative of a different, arguably more disturbed psychological motivation.
And The Imitator in Guangzhou just highlights the terrible influence.
Leadership, yes, a direct, tragic consequence of Lim's notoriety crossing the border.
So bringing this deep dive to a close, it's been heavy. What are the main takeaways from the Rainy Night Butcher saga?
Well, it's a chilling look at the extremes of human depravity, isn't it? His methods, the sheer horror of the details, the glimpses into that profoundly disturbed mind, it stays with you.
And the impact it had on Hong Kong is undeniable.
Absolutely. The fear it created, how it changed everyday behaviors, the push it gave to forensic science, and how it's still embedded in the city's collective memory through media and stories.
It really forces you to confront the darkness that can hide behind a seemingly normal facade.
It does. And maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. The case is a stark reminder of the potential for extreme violence anywhere. It underscores the importance of vigilance, of mental health awareness, of robust forensic capabilities, and maybe the need for media to be responsible when covering such horrors. Societies have to learn how to respond when faced with something so new and terrifying, and this case showed both Hong Kong's resilience and its vulnerabilities. Remembering it, understanding it, however disturbing, remains crucial.